Everyone in the blacksmith workshop stared blankly. An attribute actually appeared in Qin Mu's vital qi in his overlord body. Furthermore, it was the fire attribute, which clearly was the vermilion bird vital qi. Def was about to shout in joy, but village chief interrupted him. Relax first, Def. Mu'er. Now focus your mind and observe water. Don't think of anything else. Doing as he said, Qin Mu observed water and his vital qi turned into a trickling stream, flowing into his spirit embryo divine treasure, to temper his spirit embryo. The small blacksmith workshop was soon squeezed full from all the villagers who had rushed here after hearing the news. Old Ma, cripple, butcher, apothecary and blind had all squeezed into it to take a look at Qin Mu, who was currently observing water. None of them even dared to take a deep breath. Village chief's voice sounded out. Do you still remember the spear skill that blind have taught you? Imagine you have such a spear in your hand and give a stab forward. Qin Mu lifted his arms and gave a stab while circling the spear tip. The instant his empty hands tried to do a stab, his vital qi turned into snow-white vapor and surged out, forming a spear shape in his hands. At the same time, there was also sounds of trickling water as the water dragon-like steam circled from his tremors. Success, a success! Old Ma cried tears of happiness. He finally succeeded. Our years of hard work is not in vain. Mu'er, you have grown up. He couldn't resist turning his head to the side and used his only arm to wipe his tears. Cripple carried his sincere smile on his face and muttered, Our Qin Mu can finally survive in great ruins. Damn it, Old Ma, can you stop wiping your tears? You're going to make me cry as well. Granny C had gone to Border Dragon City to buy stuffs. If not, she would be the one who would cry the most among us. What's there to cry about? Apothecary's eyes turned red and smiled. We should be smiling. Should we die of old age in the future, Qin Mu can still continue to survive by himself. This is an extremely good thing and we should laugh happily. You're right, extremely right. Def laughed heartily. Apothecary, even though I don't think much of you, but you got me good by this sentence. World-shaking laughter resonated out from the tiny blacksmith workshop and into the heavens. Looking at these excited old men, a warm feeling flowed throughout Qin Mu's entire body. All these people who were slightly disabled and more or less had some kinds of shortcomings might look fiendish at times, but they were all his family, his closest kin. Suddenly, Granny C's voice came from outside as she laughed. What are you old things squeezing inside for and laughing about? Qin Mu was surprised and elated. Granny C had finally returned from Border Dragon City. Soon, Cripple disclosed this happy matter out and Granny C couldn't help being surprised. With her eyes reddening, she smiled. Good, good. Mu'er has finally grown up. This is good. Thinking about her hardships for the past 11 years, she couldn't resist tearing up. The little old woman sat down and wiped her tears. If we die in the future, Mu'er can still live on. Don't touch me, it's only some sand that had got in my eyes. Village chief secretly gave a sigh of relief. The dark clouds that were hovering above his head had vanished along with the appearance of attributes in Qin Mu's overlord body vital qi. With Qin Mu now able to unleash the full power of his vital qi, he had affirmed his overlord body identity and resolved a crisis in the village. However, even with his remarkable abilities, he couldn't help feeling puzzled. How did the attributes suddenly appear in Qin Mu's overlord body's vital qi? And the weird thing was Qin Mu's overlord body's vital qi had two attributes, the attributes of fire and water. It was known that as a spirit body, they only could have one attribute and never two. Qin Mu was obviously an ordinary human, and yet he had two kinds of attributes. Furthermore, they were the fire and water attributes which couldn't coexist together, making it strange. Does an ordinary human always have two kinds of spirit body when they awaken their spirit embryo? He couldn't help feeling at a loss. What exactly did Mute teach him to let his vital qi have the fire and water attributes? Can other ordinary people do the same too? He knew that the villagers had tried all means to help Qin Mu to unleash the full power of his overlord body's vital qi these days. Apothecary used medicinal supplements. Cripple, Butcher and Old Ma trained him vigorously. Blind didn't hesitate to impart it his god eyes. Deaf wanted Qin Mu to enter the path through painting and calligraphy, to paint out his divine art, whereas he had no idea what means Mute had tried to use. He didn't expect Mute to be the one who had aroused the power of Qin Mu's overlord body vital qi. He only knew Mute had instructed Qin Mu to observe fire and water. How did Qin Mu's vital qi attained attributes by observing fire and water was still a mystery to him. Mute was the village blacksmith who had never revealed his talents. The most frivolous person in the village was blind. Butcher was the most brash while the most helpful one was Old Ma, who always put up a cold front. Cripple looked full of enthusiastic spirit, but actually was the most insidious. The most down-to-earth guy was Apothecary, and the one who had no desires was Deaf. Hunchback Granny C was the most mercurial, and the Mute was the most inarticulate man. In regards to Mute, village chief hadn't the slightly clue about him. He only knew Mute had his tongue cut off by someone and was good at forging tools. Normally, the neighboring villages would request items like cooking knives, plows and farming hoes from him to get by. From his guidance to help Qin Mu to unleash his vital chi's power, Mute's cultivation and insight probably was the best except him in the village. Muir, can you now shape Qi into thread? Granny C asked in anticipation. Qin Mu tried to shape his vital Qi into thread, and the next moment his vital Qi left his body becoming as thick as an arm that was blazing with flames. The huge and thick vital Qi thread swept up the pig slaughtering knife and gave a hack forward. The wooden stake as thick as a water barrel was instantly split into half by the astonishing power. All of the villagers were speechless as they saw the vital Qi thread which was as thick as an arm. It was true that Qin Mu's vital Qi thread was powerful enough. However, refining Qi into thread required one to refine vital Qi into fine thread. In this way it would be more flexible and unpredictable to control treasure swords using Qi, executing moves that one could not normally execute. Whereas Qin Mu's vital Qi thread couldn't be considered as a thread, and would be more suitable to call it vital Qi arm. With such a thick vital Qi thread, it was also extremely vital Qi consuming. Cripple scratched his head. I feel that having vital Qi arm isn't that bad. It's equivalent to having another arm, and could also be pretty powerful in fights. Everyone didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Granny C shook her head. Vital Qi thread is more nimble whereas vital Qi arm is way too thick. Its flexibility and agility are way inferior to vital Qi thread. Muir, you have to refine vital Qi into thread as soon as possible. Qin Mu nodded. Only when he observed fire could the fire attribute emerge from his vital Qi, turning it similar to the vermilion bird's vital Qi. If he didn't observe fire, his vital Qi was still ordinary vital Qi. To observe fire while refining Qi into thread was still slightly difficult for him to accomplish. Village chief and the rest also saw something amiss as they frowned. If Qin Mu could only unleash his fire and water attributes when observing fire and water respectively, it would be extremely unfavorable in the midst of a battle. In the midst of a battle, would the enemies give you chance to observe fire and water? They had originally felt that Qin Mu's overlord body was extremely powerful for having both the fire and water attributes, but they were not as sure of it now. Ah! Mute gave a few hand signs while smiling brightly. Deaf understood it and smiled. Mute is right, Muir has only learned the basics. Practice makes perfect. If he continues to cultivate, he would definitely be able to master it. Having fire and water attributes in his vital Qi was equivalent to awakening both Black Tortoise spirit body and Vermilion Bird spirit body. When Qin Mu observed fire, it would become Vermilion Bird spirit body, and when he observed water, it would become Black Tortoise spirit body. In the village, Qin Mu controlled his vital Qi with the thickness of an arm to execute the pig slaughtering knife skill. As the pig slaughtering knife flew around, it almost split Qin Mu into two halves from time to time. Every time when danger approached, Blind at the side would use his bamboo cane to deflect the pig slaughtering knife away so as to avoid Qin Mu from really splitting himself to death. Refining Qi into thread and using it to manipulate swords required step-by-step cultivation. To use vital Qi thread to control treasure sword for killing enemies was extremely dangerous, and only the hard-working ones could control it smoothly. Butcher's pig slaughtering knife belonged to the Battle Techniques faction. Despite Butcher gaining some merits from the Divine Arts faction and could manipulate his knife without hands, there was still an extremely great difference between the moves of Battle Techniques faction and Divine Arts faction. Using pig slaughtering knife to train manipulating sword by Qi was extremely dangerous. Butcher's moves were simply too insane and dangerous. When he became wild, it was not empty talk to say that he could even cut himself to extinction. Whereas Thunderclap 8 strikes that Old Ma had imparted to him was purely from the Battle Technique faction, and could not be used for any method that required chi to manipulate sword. The heavenly devil creation technique that Granny C had imparted to him was classified as spells. Cripple's leg skill, blind staff skills, deaf's calligraphy and painting, apothecary's medicinal concoction and mute's blacksmith techniques were obviously unable to be used to train how to manipulate sword by chi. Therefore, to cultivate chi to manipulate sword, Qin Mu could only use the dangerous pig slaughter knife skill to train. At the village entrance, village chief lazily basked in the sun. Apothecary was standing beside him as he looked back at Qin Mu, who was struggling to cultivate chi to manipulate sword, when he suddenly said, Blind had imparted divine eyes to Moore, while Butcher had also imparted his knife skills to him. There's also Cripple's leg skills and Deaf's calligraphy and painting techniques. Now what about you, village chief? Village chief turned his head to look at him. Apothecary had an aggressive tone. What we are good at are different, but we're all not competent in using chi to manipulate sword. You have a greater experience than any of us here, and your abilities are also higher than any of us here. Why don't you want to teach him? In regards to using chi to manipulate sword, I would like to ask, in this entire world, whose sword skill could be stronger than you? Village chief's face turned dim as he looked down at his non-existent limbs and said softly, I want to teach, but the responsibility is too great for Moore to handle. When I still had my limbs back then, I wasn't able to take on the responsibility as well, or else there was no need for me to hide in the great ruins. Do you know how my limbs were broken? Apothecary shook his head. These are sword wounds. Village chief raised his head and said in a daze, My limbs were chopped off by a sword. Anyone who inherits my techniques would have to take on my responsibility, which I was unable to handle, much less the current him. Whoosh! In the forest outside disabled Elderly village, Qin Mu gave a palm strike and vital chi could be seen surging out from his arm like a flaming dragon coiling around it. The air in front of him immediately became extremely parched, as if the air had been lit up in flames. His footsteps shifted as he struck continuously. The air became more and more parched, as if there were 10 extremely scorching suns hanging over the vast yellow desert. What he had used belonged to Old Ma's fist skills. Thunderclap 8 strikes fourth form Qua Fu chasing the sun. Suddenly, Qin Mu's footsteps changed irregularly, and his moves converted accordingly. His moves and forms were like a torrential river flowing into the sea. His vital chi actually changed from fire attribute to water attribute. On his arm was a coiling water dragon formed by steam, and even his moves resonated out with sounds of surging waves, as if there was a flood flowing around him. His move changed again, and this time both his hands grabbed onto emptiness as spear-like steam overturned the seas and rivers like a long dragon. These few days, he had always been in the village training using chi to manipulate sword and focusing on improving his vital chi. However, he still had to first observe fire before he could allow his own vital chi to acquire the fire attribute and executing using chi to manipulate sword thereafter. As he continued to practice, the time required for him to observe fire became shorter and shorter. And now he had no need to observe the furnace, and as long as his mind thought of the fire in the furnace, his vital chi would automatically become hot. However, Butcher's pig slaughtering knife skill was from the battle technique faction. Thus it was not very successful for Qin Mu to use pig slaughtering knife skill to train using chi to manipulate sword. On the other hand, cultivating Old Ma's Thunderclap 8 strikes and blind spear skills had resulted in bountiful harvests and rapid improvements. And today, as he executed Thunderclap 8 strikes fourth form, Qua Fu chasing the sun, he was like a giant sprinting while the air exploded from the tremors of his palms. This was the power of his vital chi. Of course, the fire attribute of Vermilion Bird's vital chi could not perfectly unleash the full power of Old Ma's Thunderclap 8 strikes. The most suitable vital chi for Old Ma's Thunderclap 8 strikes was still Green Dragon's vital chi. Contrariwise, the water attribute of Black Tortoise's vital chi could unleash blind spear skills without any restraint. After some time, Qin Mu stopped and consumed 2 vitality reinforcement pills to recover his rapidly draining vital chi. He then pondered over what he was lacking while he used his vital chi. Originally, only 1 vitality reinforcement pill would already make him go wild from being stuffed, but after his spirit embryo had awoken, consuming 2 vitality reinforcement pills wasn't a big deal anymore, just that he would be unbearably stuffed. Could Devil Ape eat thing like vitality reinforcement pill? It shouldn't be so since Grandpa Apothecary said there were 4 kinds of attributes in the vitality reinforcement pill, so it would be poison to whoever that isn't the overlord body. Maybe I could make a cauldron of vitality reinforcement pill for Devil Ape someday. Qin Mu's heart wavered as he recalled the jumbo that had sparred with him. He hadn't gone to look for Devil Ape these days and didn't know what extent did this strange beast had cultivated Overlord Body 3 elixir technique to. He stood up and ran swiftly towards the Devil Ape's territory. After all, he was only a teenager and had no friends other than the elders in the village. He and Devil Ape could be considered to be no discord, no concord. He was still pretty concerned about it after not meeting it for a few days. Not long later, Qin Mu had arrived outside the mountainous valley that Devil Ape lived in. Suddenly a small mountain-like body rose up within the forest, which was none other than the Devil Ape. Having not met for a few days, Devil Ape had become even more majestic. It was exceptionally elated at seeing Qin Mu and started to hammer his chest, signaling Qin Mu to jump onto his shoulder. Qin Mu leaped onto its shoulder and the Devil Ape went flying as it ran and brought him deep into the valley. It was Qin Mu's first time entering Devil Ape's nest. He could see wild deer, horses everywhere. There were even some musk deer and some silly roe deer. There was an ancient vestige in the hinterlands with crumbling fences and dilapidated walls which was beyond run down. Where the Devil Ape was living in was a palace which was already half collapsed. In front of the place was a ruined stone statue of a semi-human and semi-beast. Qin Mu activated his heaven's eyes and was overwhelmed. The stone statue was like the stone statues in disabled elderly village. Through the heaven's eyes, the stone statue's grace was like an indomitable beast god who was malevolent with flames surging to the sky. So this statue was what Devil Ape was relying on to resist the darkness invasion at night and to protect its life. With this kind of extraordinary grace, could this statue also be sculpted by God for God? Qin Mu jumped down from Devil Ape's shoulder and a silly roe deer came up to him sniffing the corners of his shirt, chewing on it. Devil Ape pinched up the roe deer and carefully placed it aside. It then waved its hands, signaling Qin Mu to catch up. It was the ruler of this valley and also its guardian, protecting these animals and only being fierce to trespassers. Qin Mu followed it into the rundown palace and he frowned. There were wild beasts scents all around and should have come from the wild beasts which had also hidden here every night to avoid the darkness. Look, young-un. Devil Ape pointed to a wall. Qin Mu lifted his head looking at the ruined wall paintings on the palace wall. The wall paintings were mottled and peeling off in some places. Some places were missing their colors and only a few wall paintings were still considered complete. What these wall paintings depicted was a man in qi cultivation. The arrows inside the body represented the flow of vital qi. Taking a few looks, Qin Mu's heart jolted. He saw the vital qi guiding path of Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. Devil Ape must have cultivated the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique and found it similar to the pictures on the wall paintings, thus bringing him here. However, Qin Mu quickly discovered the different points. The first picture on the wall painting was indeed the guiding diagram of Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, whereas the second picture differed to some extent. Even though it was still in accordance to the path of Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, it was slightly more complicated. The guiding path in the second picture had entered the spirit embryo divine treasure on the heart of the brow. After the vital qi entered the spirit embryo divine treasure, the third picture was revealed. However, the third picture showed the guiding path of the vital qi in the spirit embryo divine treasure, and instead of being inhaled and exhaled from the spirit embryo directly, the vital qi formed a mystical vital qi formation marking under the spirit embryo's feet. This formation marking was extremely complicated. It was even more complicated than the Heaven's Big Dipper formation marking that Blind had imparted to him. Qin Mu took a close look and memorized it by heart while using his vital qi to imitate and form the formation marking under his spirit embryo's feet. When he had completed the spirit embryo formation marking, his body uncontrollably trembled and immediately felt a weird connection between him and his spirit embryo. When he breathed, the spirit embryo breathed as well. When he made a move, the spirit embryo would make the same move as well, and when he executed Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, the spirit embryo executed Overlord Body 3 elixir technique as well. Qin was stunned before erupting in joy. Doesn't this mean it's equivalent to 2 of me cultivating? However, he immediately discovered that executing Overlord Body 3 elixir technique with his spirit embryo couldn't allow his vital chi cultivation to stack, and had instead honed his vital chi. As his vital chi swam through the formation marking under his spirit embryo's feet, it absorbed the golden rays in the golden sea before entering the spirit embryo's body. When it was exhaled out, the vital chi had become even more pure and tenacious after fusing with the golden rays. In the past, his spirit embryo had also indistinctly absorbed the golden rays, but never as fast as going through the formation marking like what indicated in the third picture. Could this be the spirit embryo realm technique for Overlord Body 3 elixir technique? Qin Mu's heart started thumping wildly. Village chief had said he didn't know the following techniques for the Overlord Body, and never would he expect to find the Overlord Body technique for spirit embryo realm here. He looked toward the fourth picture and slightly frowned. The fourth picture had already been peeled off and only half was left. What was recorded should be the technique for the 5 elements realm. On the picture were scratches of animals, thus it should have been destroyed by the animals living here. The fifth picture was also very badly damaged, while more than half of sixth picture had simply came off. The following remaining pictures were even more ruined and impossible to identify. With the palace damaged to this extent, who knows how long the wall paintings inside could still be preserved for? Qin Mu gave a sigh. It already wasn't easy for a few pictures of the wall paintings to last all the way until now. He memorized the second and third picture and recalled them silently before he could be at ease. Even though the wall paintings in the palace were completely destroyed, they would still be handed down by him to the next Overlord Body. There were not much wall paintings left on the palace walls. Other than the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, there was still another wall painting that was more complete. It was a painting of a map. Looking at it closely, Qin Mu found the location of the surging river. His heart throbbed. Could this be the map of Great Ruins? Little by little along the surging river, he finally found the location of disabled elderly village through the river flow and turns of the river channel. Why is a dragon drawn here? Looking dozens of miles upstream from disabled elderly village on the map, there was actually a figure of a dragon drawn on the map, which was puzzling. Surging River Dragon King. Qin Mu's heart slightly jolted. He had no idea what the 4 words, Surging River Dragon King, meant. There was not just one weird place on the map. There were still other weird places, like a well drawn 10 miles east from disabled elderly village. There were also 4 words written beside the well, Heaven's Well Dragon King. There was another well which wrote Ocean Eyes Dragon King. In a faraway place on the Great Ruins map, he also saw a ship, and on the ship was a sun. Beside it were 2 words, Sunship. Not far from the Sunship, there was a place called Sun Well. There was still a moonship in a place very far away from Sunship, and beside the ship was a moon. Beside the moonship, there was also a strange place called the Moon Well. Qin Mu's gaze searched around the map and couldn't find the ancient temple on the heart of the river that was suppressing Woman Wu. He also couldn't find Border Dragon City, which was a few hundred miles downstream. This map, could it be the map before the catastrophe in the Great Ruins? Searching for a while more, his heart leaped when he found the vestige where he had hidden from the darkness. However, on the map, it was not labeled as a vestige and was instead called Goddess's Pass. It is really the map before the Great Ruins catastrophe. Qin Mu composed himself. The map before the Great Ruins catastrophe was very useful, as there were many ruins indicated on it. If he were to go hunting and wasn't able to return to disabled elderly village in time, he could find the vestiges indicated on the map to hide from the darkness invasion. With this map I can avoid a lot of dangers. He memorized the map by heart and found the valley where he was now located in. This valley on the map was called Doom Suppression Palace. Doom Suppression Palace? Doom means disaster, which means catastrophe. Learning painting and calligraphy from Deaf, he had acquired a bellyful of knowledge even if he couldn't be considered as a scholar. If Doom Suppression Palace means a palace to suppress catastrophe, then what kind of catastrophe was the palace suppressing? Qin Mu muttered to himself. Looking around him, he realized Devil Ape was no longer in the palace and had left without his knowledge. It must be because the Devil Ape was afraid of disturbing him by staying here around. Big fella sure is thoughtful. Walking out of the palace, Qin Mu called Devil Ape over and asked, "Big fella, are there any strange places around here?" Devil Ape scratched its head and thought for a moment before running towards a side chamber inside Doom's Suppression Palace. Qin Mu quickly kept up with it as the silly roe deer behind them followed as well. Devil Ape entered the side chamber and pointed out with its finger. Looking at the direction where it was pointing, Qin Mu saw a white wall where a tiny thumb-size human shadow was painted. Qin Mu took a closer look at the wall and didn't find anything else other than the tiny human shadow. The silly roe deer moved forward and sniffed the human shadow on the wall. Just as it was about to lick the wall, a hand suddenly came out and grabbed the silly roe deer into the wall. Qin Mu jumped in shock while Devil Ape hammered its chest in fury and bellowed at the wall. However, it didn't dare to go forward. On the wall, a vivid painting of a roe deer appeared beside the tiny human shadow. Qin Mu then saw the human started to move slowly as it opened its mouth. As the mouth grew larger and larger, the mouth which was filled with nail-like teeth closed down on the roe deer. Qin Mu was dumbstruck. After the human shadow on the wall ate the roe deer, it suddenly took huge steps walking toward them. Qin Mu then realized even though the human wasn't walking out of the wall, its shadow was growing larger and larger until it was the size of a normal human. However, it didn't stop there as the shadow continued to move forward. In just a short while, even though the human didn't walk out from the wall, his shadow had reached the ceiling in the side chamber. It was the shadow of its head with his mouth wide open while its hands stretched towards the two adjacent walls at the side. Young-un, go! Devil Ape grabbed Qin Mu and leaped out to prevent getting caught by the shadow on the wall. An angry roar came out from the wall as the wall trembled non-stop, filling the air with smoke and dust. The black shadow then spread out from inside of the side chamber and shrouded the whole side chamber in a blink of an eye. The shadow tried to break free from the walls of the side chamber but was unable to do so no matter what. This is a demon? Qin Mu stopped running away as he blinked his eyes and turned back to probe. Chikaduo samoyi bori samoyi. Chikaduo bori samoyi. The shadow that had shrouded the side chamber suddenly calmed down. The window frame on the side chamber opened up like two pitch-black eyes. Qin Mu felt a terrifying gaze landing on him, giving him a bone-chilling feeling. Suddenly, the huge door of the side chamber closed automatically before opening up again. As it opened and closed, a hoarse voice sounded out. The Great Freedom Incantation. You are a descendant of my race? How pathetic. Your incantation ain't even authentically handed down. Has my race declined to this extent? Qin Mu probed on. Does Senior know the true Great Freedom Incantation? Of course. The door opened and closed as an arrogant voice resonated out. A supreme power is hidden inside the Great Freedom Incantation of my race. This imposing power was the one that had established this world and attained the power of great freedom. Why did it land into such a pitiful state in your hands? There's not even an ounce of might in it. Make this monkey retreat, and I will teach you the true incantation. Qin Mu looked at Devil Ape as it shook his head and warned in a muffled voice. Believe, fool. This senior is of the same race as me and won't harm me. Go outside and wait for a moment. Qin Mu consoled it. Devil Ape was still not reassured, but it was pushed out by Qin Mu. The door of the side chamber opened and closed again with a devilish voice. Incantation is the wonder to executing techniques. You had only learned the syllables of the incantation but not the grace within. You also haven't learned the method to bring out the innate qualities of the incantation. This method is called Great Freedom Mudra, the core ultimate arts of our race. My power is sealed within this big chamber and would not last long, so you better pay attention. I shall only teach you once. How much you take away from it will depend on your own ability. The black shadow on the walls of the side chamber started to shrink and became about the size of Qin Mu. Circulating lines started to appear inside the shadow which showed the flow of the vital qi. The devilish voice explained, there are 4 types of Mudra methods from the Great Freedom Mudra. Devil God Mighty Force Mudra, Devil Freedom Mudra, Great Wisdom Mudra, and the last Mudra method combines the first 3 together to form the Great Freedom Devil Mudra. What I am about to show you is the first Mudra, Devil God Mighty Force Mudra. Your voice must carry the devil voice to be able to unleash the full power. Chi Kaduo. Qin Mu gazed steadily at the black figure on the wall of the side chamber as he memorized the path of executing the technique. In his body, his vital qi was circulating with the path as well. Chi Kaduo. The devil voice burst forth from his mouth, and Qin Mu immediately felt a terrifying power surging out from inside his body. This terrifying power induced his 5 fingers to form an unusual mudra and strike forward uncontrollably. Boom! A muffled sound rang out as Qin Mu's palm actually executed the thunderclap he was longing for. Thunder and palm. Qin Mu stared blankly as it seemed inconceivable to him. The devil god mighty force mudra that the human shadow on the wall had taught him was actually exceptionally powerful. In terms of variation, it could not be compared to Old Ma's Thunderclap 8 strikes, but in terms of strength, it surpassed Thunderclap 8 strikes by quite a fair bit. However, the move Devil God Mighty Force Mudra also drained his vital chi tremendously. It consumed several times more vital chi than Thunderclap 8 strikes. The shadow on the wall squirmed as it seemed to get pulled back by something. When it returned to the side chamber uncontrollably, it panted heavily. The power of this side chamber is too strong, suppressing me all along. I don't have much time left. Take a good look. This is the second mudra. Devil Freedom Mudra. Sa'amoyi. On the wall inside the chamber, the vital chi flow on the black shadow changed again. However, due to the dimness inside the chamber, it wasn't clear in distance. Qin Mu stirred himself up and subconsciously took a step forward, finally managing to see the vital chi circulation and changes clearly. Sa'amoyi. He silently chanted the devil voice and circulated his vital chi. Instantly, another wondrous power burst forth within his body and induced his body to do another pose. His face uncontrollably revealed a smile as his finger formed a pinching flower gesture and gave a strike. The power of this mudra wasn't very strong and instead seemed to have no power at all. However, Qin Mu felt that its effect was very similar to a mudra in Thunderclap 8 strikes. Thunderclap 8 strikes 5th form, Sunshine Refining Yang Soul in the Sky. This move that Old Ma had imparted to him wasn't particularly good in offense, but the essence of this skills lied in attacking the soul of a divine arts practitioner. The secret of Sunshine Refining Yang Soul in the Sky lied in the fist, which was like the sun shining down from the sky, using the sun and thunder in one's palm to purge the soul. The Devil Freedom Mudra that the human shadow in the wall had taught him also didn't look like it had much power because it was focused on purging the soul, which was why it was similar to Old Ma's Sunshine Refining Yang Soul in the Sky. The only difference between the two was that Old Ma used the sun and thunder to ferociously destroy the opponent's soul, whereas Devil Freedom Mudra used a mudra to draw the opponent's soul to your palm, where you obliterated your enemy's soul in the heart of your palm, which was much more sinister and vicious, causing the opponent to be unable to guard against it. One was able to defend against a ferocious attack, but it was impossible to defend against Devil Freedom Mudra. Qin Mu was puzzled. The mudra from the shadow on the wall was similar to Old Ma's fist skill. Both of them clearly had similar theory, however the methods used to expound on the theory were completely different. One belonged to the righteous path while the other belonged to the unorthodox path. As for which of them was better, Qin Mu was unable to say. He could only say that they each had their own strengths. Old Ma's Thunderclap 8 strikes were more suitable for attacking enemies head-on and crush them with the ferocious fist skill, while Great Freedom Mudra was more suitable for sudden execution, catching the enemies by surprise. The human shadow on the wall shrank more as it seemed to be unable to withstand the restraint of Doom Suppression Palace. It gasped for breaths and continued. Pay attention. This is the third mudra, Great Wisdom Mudra. The shadow on the wall became blurred and fuzzy, causing Qin Mu to subconscious take another 2 steps forward. Just as he was about to enter the side chamber's door, he suddenly stopped. Instead, he executed 9 Heaven's Eyes awakening skill that Blind had taught him, and another layer of pupil appeared in his eyes. Even though the shadow on the wall was dim, it was, however, extremely clear in his eyes. Can you see clearly if you don't come in? The shadow on the wall asked. Qin Mu respectfully replied. Don't worry, Senior. Junior here cultivated from young. My kidneys are strong and my primordial yang is brimming. My eyesight is very good and I'm able to see things in the darkness, so naturally I can see clearly. The shadow on the wall wavered but did not act any further, and instead continued to exhibit the wonder of vital chi circulation. The third mudra of Great Freedom Mudra was Great Wisdom Mudra. The execution for Great Wisdom Mudra was much more complicated. The circulation of vital chi in the black shadow also became faster and faster, and despite having opened his heaven's eyes, Qin Mu was unable to completely catch the path of the vital chi, making him itching to enter the side chamber. Qin Mu hesitated for a moment before putting one leg into the chamber while his other leg remained outside. This way, he was finally able to barely catch the execution path of the vital qi. Qin Mu struggled to memorize, but the shadow on the wall soon completed executing Great Wisdom Mudra. He tried to execute Great Wisdom Mudra, and even though it was executed out, he still felt that something was missing. He didn't manage to completely remember the execution path of Great Wisdom Mudra. This is the fourth mudra of Great Freedom Mudra, which is also the strongest mudra. The powers of the first three mudras would fuse together into this mudra. The shadow on the wall seemed to become strengthless as it became smaller and smaller. His voice grew softer and softer. However, this mudra is slightly more complicated and I'm afraid you can't see clearly. Don't worry, Senior. Qin Mu gave a sincere smile. Junior here cultivated from young. My kidneys are strong and my primordial yang is brimming, therefore my eyesight is still very good. I can still barely see clearly. The shadow on the wall fell silent. It then replied with a weaker and weaker voice as it sighed. But I can no longer keep this up. Come in, there are 4 long bronze nails nailed to the floor in the 4 corners of the chamber. You just need to pluck out the 4 bronze nails. These 4 nails are stabbed into my back, so as long as they are plucked off, I'll be able to catch my breath. Once I catch my breath, I can teach you the complete mudra. He coaxed in a gentle voice. You haven't completely learned Great Wisdom Mudra, right? Great Wisdom Mudra is very complicated, but its power is also extremely strong. If you don't learn it completely, you would be unable to unleash its full power. That's not all. The strongest mudra of them all is still the 4th mudra, Great Freedom Devil Mudra. Once you pluck the nails out, Senior, I think I shall not learn it anymore. Qin Mu shook his head as he retracted his left leg from the chamber. It's too troublesome, and with how stupid I am, I probably won't be able to master it. The shadow on the wall wavered as it tried to tempt Qin Mu. I can teach you a second time as long as you pluck out the nails. Qin Mu became even troubled and shook his head. Didn't Senior say you were only going to teach me once? If I make Senior teach a second time, won't I be making Senior eat your words? Junior would only just become more guilty. I'm sorry for disappointing Senior's expectation for being so stupid. No, you are very clever. The voice from the shadow became even more gentle, just like an affable elder instructing his young ones. You had learned Devil God Mighty Force Mudra and Devil Freedom Mudra by only seeing them once. You even learned part of Great Wisdom Mudra by seeing it once as well. Your aptitude is extremely high, and you would definitely be able to learn Great Wisdom Mudra by seeing it again. I like your aptitude and intelligence, thus I'm fine with eating my words and teaching you a second time. Saying until here, the voice suddenly stopped before turning into an icy cold tone. You cheated me for my techniques? Qin Mu was startled. Why did Senior say that? You cheated me for my techniques. The shadow on the wall flew into a fury as it became larger and larger, shrouding the entire side chamber once again. The shadow was malicious and sternly shouted, How dare you cheat me for my techniques? Little brat, I taught you with good intentions and instead you lied to me. Qin Mu remained standing outside the chamber and let the devil shadow squirm freely in front of him while he shook his head. You must be joking, Senior. Aren't you trying to trick me into releasing you? The door of the side chamber opened widely. With windows as eyes and door as the mouth, it looked sinister and terrifying as it said imposingly, You knew. We're both originally from 2 different races, yet Senior tried to lie first by saying we are of the same race. Then you tried to bait me using Great Freedom Mudra to make me come closer to you with only 2 kinds of goals in mind. Qin Mu revealed a sincere smile that was similar to Cripple's. The first kind is to make me enter the chamber and bait me to go closer to the wall where you can capture me before controlling me to pluck out the bronze nails in the 4 corners of the chamber. The second kind is to make use of my desire to acquire the complete Great Freedom Mudra to pluck out the nails by my own will. If I were to pluck out the nails, things wouldn't be as simple as catching a breath. What Senior would do after being freed was to eat me like what you did to that silly roe deer. However, Qin Mu's smile became even more sincere. I'm no silly roe deer, thus I have played along with your lies and cheated 2.5 Mudra skills from you. The whole chamber trembled non-stop and an earth-shattering howl resonated from the door. Son of a bitch! I'm going to kill you. Once I'm freed, I will torture you to death. The cowherd boy from disabled elderly village curled his lips and turned to leave. Grandpa Cripple had played little tricks like yours countless times on me. I had been tricked ever since I was young. Even the sweets Granny bought for me were tricked away countless of times by him. For you to be thinking of tricking me, I'm going to kill your Grandpa Cripple. The shadow on the wall howled in fury. Chinmu turned back and warned him seriously, don't even try it. He will swindle you until you lose your underpants. The shadow on the wall suddenly quieted down, so quiet that it seemed peculiar. It then whispered in a soft voice, did you just say that we aren't of the same race? You are too naive, little brat. How is it that you and I aren't of the race? My young and little devil spawn. Chinmu felt a chill and suddenly thought of the god voice that was from 9 heavens above when he was doing a wall break. He then thought of how he used the devil voice to counter the god voice. Combining them with the words from the shadow on the wall, he made some unpleasant connections. He immediately shook his head and chased away all the messy thoughts in his mind before turning to leave. You are the same as me, the same. Behind him, the shadow on the wall laughed queerly. Chinmu frowned as he walked out of Doom Restraint Palace. Devil Ape immediately went up to him and sneaked a glance at the side chamber. It was only relieved after seeing the shadow shrinking back into the side chamber, before solemnly telling Chinmu, believe? Fool. Chinmu nodded his head while feeling the same deeply. Great ruins is simply too dangerous. If people as honest as us do not learn to be clever, they would definitely be cheated clean without having the slightest dregs remaining. Devil Ape took a glance at him and twitched its mouth. Believe, fool. Chinmu's face turned slightly red and protested. Hey, I'm not a cheat. I just got the worst of it since young, therefore I was forced to become quick-witted. However, I'm afraid you can't stay here any longer. With Doom Restraint Palace being so run down, I have no idea when it will collapse. If it collapsed, that old devil would definitely vent his anger on you. Devil Ape shook its head and silently looked at the wild animals. There were not many living places left in Great Ruins. They were either taken by humans or taken by other strange beasts. If Devil Ape was to bring all these wild animals to move, it was afraid that they would not be able to find a place to stay, and would definitely die from the darkness invasion. Chinmu also had no plan as disabled elderly village was too small, and simply unable to squeeze so many animals. Come, young-un. Devil Ape walked forward while Chinmu followed behind it. Devil Ape then brought him to the bottom of the cliff and pointed at the handprint on the side of the cliff while revealing an expression of anticipation. The handprint had been imprinted by Devil Ape itself. Its hand was extremely huge, therefore it had left a deep handprint on the cliff. This handprint represented that this was Devil Ape's territory. Once other strange beasts saw the handprint, they would know that this was Devil Ape's territory and take a detour. If other strange beasts wanted to take over this place, they would come forth to challenge. If Devil Ape was to lose in the fight, the handprint would be erased by the new owner, and a new imprint would be left behind. You mark. Devil Ape said in anticipation. Chinmu was puzzled and didn't understand the meaning of its words. Devil Ape grabbed his hand and placed it beside his handprint, saying mark. Chinmu understood what it was trying to say and felt moved. With a heavy strike beside the ape's handprint, his handprint immediately appeared on the cliff. Devil Ape revealed a smile and pointed at the valley as it spoke in a muffled voice. Mine, yours. The warm feeling in Chinmu's heart turned into sounds of laughter, making Devil Ape chortled as well. At this moment, a voice came from midair. Master, there are people below. Chinmu immediately raised his head and saw a paper boat flying past in the air. The paper boat was about 60 to 70 feet long. There was a lot of space on the boat as several men and women wearing green garments stood inside. After that, he saw even more strange stuff. A few paper cranes came flapping their wings while surrounding another paper boat. There were also several strange men and women standing on the paper cranes, and each of them had a long sword on their backs. On the second boat, there was only one person and some goods that Chinmu couldn't see clearly. The paper boat stopped in midair as an elder sat there and said, Chen Xiu, go and ask for directions. Understood. A young man on the paper crane looked down and inquired, Youth, do you know the way to disabled elderly village? Chinmu was bewildered and pointed to the direction of disabled elderly village. The young man was refined and courteous as he bowed to express his thanks. A gold ingot then dropped down from the paper crane as they flew away around the boat. Qin Mu picked up the gold ingot in bewilderment. Why do those people want to go to our village? Could they be merchants that were passing by? However, if they are merchants, shouldn't they go to Border Dragon City? Qin Mu kept the gold ingot and said, "Focus on cultivating, big fella. I will come find you tomorrow. Do not ever go into the side chamber. That devil is very sly." Devil Ape nodded. Qin Mu immediately returned to the village and soon reached the outskirts of disabled elderly village. From far away, he could see two paper boats anchored in the sky outside the village gate. The paper cranes landed under the trees outside the village, but there was nobody left on the boat or on the paper cranes, which meant that they must have entered the village. As he walked into the village, he saw the elder who had spoken on the boat sitting face to face with village chief and speaking to him. "I have heard Granny C from your village is outstanding at handicrafts, therefore, we have come to request Granny C to help us tailor some clothes." Village chief asked, "May I venture to ask what kind and size of clothing do you want her to make?" The elder replied, "I need her to make some burial clothes, a total of 9 pieces. As for the size, we'll go according to the sizes of all the villagers here. I've also heard Old Ma's carpentry was not bad as well, so I would like to trouble Old Ma to help make 9 coffins. As for the length, we'll have it accordingly to everyone's build here." Suddenly, the elder saw Qin Mu walking over and gave an astonished expression. "I had said wrong. I would need 10 burial clothes and 10 coffins. Qian Qiu, bring out the deposit." The man named Qian Qiu came forward and waved his hand. One of the paper boat outside the village came floating over and landed beside village chief. Qin Mu immediately saw that the boat was actually filled with inauspicious items such as paper notes, paper ingots, candles, white funeral flag, and etc. The elder instructed him to stop the boat in the village and said, "This is the deposit for the 10 burial clothes and coffins. May I ask if Granny C and Old Ma could finish them by today? Truth to be told, I'm in a hurry to use them." Cripple, blacksmith, apothecary who were busy with their own works all suddenly turned quiet. Granny C tottered over and smiled. 10 burial clothes by today? That's a bit rush, customer." Old Ma walked over and said coldly, "I work fast so the coffins would be done by today. Could old Mr. wait a moment?" The elder smiled. "It's surely a bit rush, but everyone here is talented, therefore you should be able to rush them out, right?" Granny C took a glance at ingots and candles and smiled coldly. "If you are in a rush to wear them, I could make them out right now. It's a coincidence that I just bought some rolls of cloth." The elder half rose out of his chair. "Thanks for the trouble, Granny." Granny C walked back to her house to carry out a few rolls of cloths. With a sweep of her arm, the rolls of cloths unraveled in midair and a pair of scissors automatically flew out. The scissors went snipping in midair, and in just a short while, the shapes of clothes were done. Silver needles then flew out from the basket and with thread tied to their ends. As the needles weaved around in the sky, the burial clothes were soon completed. On the other hand, Old Ma came to the huge willow trees and released green chi from his fingers, which surrounded the trees with a sawing sound. Not long after, the huge tree trunks were sawed into several white wooden coffins. These white wooden coffins flew over and landed in the village. Granny C's clothings were also done. As she gently waved her hands, the burial clothes one by one landed on the coffin. Old Ma took a few strides forward and coldly said, "You have brought quite a large amount of money, therefore, I had made another 2 coffins for free, a total of 12 coffins for you, and all made according to your measurements, so it would definitely not be longer or shorter if all of you laid inside them. Are you satisfied with my craftsmanship, old mister?" Granny C smiled. "I have also made another 2 more burial clothes for free, which would definitely fit?" The elder chuckled. "Satisfied, I'm satisfied." Qin Mu felt the atmosphere becoming more and more peculiar. He secretly counted and realized when he added the green clothing people and the elder together, there were precisely 12 people. Apothecary walked over with a sinister expression, and yet his voice was very gentle. "From old Mister's accent, you don't sound like a local." The accent seemed to come from the southern border. The elder replied with a gentle smile, "That's right, we are from the southern border, where Li River is at." Cripple walked over with his face brimming with smiles. "I heard that there was a big sect called the Li River sect located beside Li River, where there are many experts. I heard that the sect master of Li River sect is called Mu Beifeng. His divine art had reached perfection and could break the river flow with just a stretch of his hand. The elder immediately replied, "I'm flattered. I don't deserve the praise. I am indeed Mu Beifeng. Our Li River sect is merely a small sect that is just trying to make a living off the river. I have 5 junior brothers who were well respected and known as the Li River's 5 elders." Qin Mu's heart jolted and his expression changed slightly. Aren't Li River's 5 elders the 5 elders that had died at Granny's hands? Could it be Mu Beifeng brought his people here to seek revenge for Li River's 5 elders? He specifically wanted 10 coffins and 10 burial clothes which were clearly prepared for all the people. In disabled elderly village, after killing the villagers, they will put the burial clothes on them and place them in the coffins to bury on the spot, before burning the ingots and candles as offerings. The paper boats and paper cranes were also prepared for the villagers after their deaths. Mu Beifeng twisted his jade rig on his thumb and calmly said, 2 years ago the imperial family issued an imperial order which was personally brought to us by the imperial preceptor. When he reached our Li River sect, he sat down to talk about the path with me. In just an instant's time, he had won me over and I accepted the imperial order willingly, thanking the emperor for his grace. I'm indebted to the emperor and imperial preceptor for thinking highly of me, bestowing me as the governor of 5 Sprouts Prefecture in the southern border, a lower second-ranking official governing over 5 Sprouts. Imperial preceptor then bestowed Li River's 5 elders as the vice-governors, lower third-ranking officials. However, we are wanderers after all. Even with an official position, we still like to move around. Village chief smiled. Eternal Peace Empire is a sect disguised as an empire. With the number 1 man below gods as the emperor's assistant, the fate of the empire becomes increasingly prosperous, making many sects yield to it. It even allows disciples from various sects to enter the army to open up new territories. Brother Mu was originally free and unrestrained, but after becoming officials, you have to abide by the law of the imperial family. It is understandable that you are not used to it, Mu Beifeng replied. Therefore my 5 junior brothers took a breather and went out, bringing Li River's 5 disciples into great ruins. Li River's 5 disciples were the disciples that my 5 junior brothers had taken in. They were all talented in their own ways and my 5 junior brothers decided to bring them out for some training. Blind walked over with his bamboo cane and stated, Li River's 5 elders came into Great Ruins for training? And they brought their disciples? Great Ruins is a very dangerous place. I can't help feeling worried for them. Mu Beifeng sighed. That's right. Great Ruins is simply too dangerous and there are fiendish people everywhere. They have already been away for 2 months, and not seeing them return for so long, I knew something must have turned wrong. Therefore as I searched for them, I found the place where my 5 junior brothers died by chance. They had all died so miserably, from the wounds on their broken bones. The one that killed them should be an expert from Heavenly Devil sect with a short stature that was about the height of Granny C. He shook his head and continued, after that, I also found the place where their disciples had died, which was at a valley. Their corpses were mangled by the wild beasts. Ice! What a horrible death! From the wounds on their corpses, the one that had killed them should be a young practitioner, just like our little brother here. I heard your village had a tailor and a carpenter, thus I had come forward to order burial clothes and coffins for the murderers that had killed my junior brothers and junior disciples. All that's left is to place them inside. He revealed an expression of slight haughtiness. I may be a court official but I'm used to being wild. I'm not used to mumbo-jumbo of the imperial family, so let us settle this the martial world way. I have come to take revenge for my junior brothers and their disciples. Qian Qiu. Saying here, the elder closed his mouth and stopped talking. Behind him, a young practitioner came forward and looked at Qin Mu. It was the man who had thrown Qin Mu a gold ingot for his help. My junior brother Chu died from a knife skill that was executed with a stick. Little brother, seeing the knife at your back, would you show me your knife skill and spar with me? Qin Mu hesitated and looked at Granny C, village chief and the rest. Granny C could not help and spoke. Muur, the southern border has a feral custom. Their ways are ruthless and they never show mercy. Since he asked you to show your knife, you should just execute. Keep your mouth shut. Village chief gave a shout of warning and stopped Granny C from saying more before calmly saying, they have come here following the rules of the martial world and didn't use the power of the imperial family and imperial preceptor to pressure us, so we can't spoil the rules either. No one is to give advice to Qin or to help him. With his awe-inspiring gaze, village chief looked at Qin and said coldly, Qin, the coffins and burial clothes are right there. If you are soft-hearted, one of the coffins would be yours. It's either he will die or you will die. He has already challenged you to a duel, so why are you standing here and staring blankly?